This year we've discovered a few things about Nissan which are incredibly damning. The corporate culture at Nissan in Japan is clearly sick. The fact that they're willing to do some of the things that they've done to their employees is, in my opinion, abhorrent. The Japanese government hasn't really done much about it, even though they've fined them millions of dollars in the past for similar antics. However, Nissan is unfortunately making a series of missteps which could damn the company. Their debt this year has already been downgraded to junk. What does that mean for Nissan? A company that is clearly struggling financially has to pay a higher interest rate than all of its peers. All of them. And Japanese automakers are really way behind with EVs. They need to invest a lot of money. Well, Nissan is going to find it difficult to do that. This year, Nissan has struggled mightily to sell the Nissan Ariya in North America. In fact, not just to sell it in North America, but everywhere. This is their new electric car. They spent a lot of money developing this car, and there was a lot of marketing, a lot of hoopla around it, and now there is 200 days worth of stock in North America, meaning no one's buying this EV, even though it's basically brand new. It's only been out for a few months. Now, Nissan employees in the US have been convicted of more than 400 criminal charges. This is not the first time we've heard this in North America in the last 6 months. Seems like Nissan just can't catch a break, or it just keeps doing stupid things, one or the other. Which one do you think it is? Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Nissan, in my view, will be a shell company of itself. I believe it is likely within the next decade to become a Chinese-owned brand company. I know the Japanese government won't like it, but the Japanese government will have to bail out every single one of its automakers, including especially Mazda, who will probably come, Nissan and Mazda probably first, so it won't have a choice. It won't be able to bail out every one of its automakers because Japan already has more debt than, as a percentage of its GDP, than any other country in the history of the planet. And it's not even close. It's not like Japan's just leading the race. They are miles ahead. They have an incredible amount of debt, an economy that isn't really growing, and an automotive industry which is basically the backbone of their economy, which is about to be decimated. Now, you'll know why that is. I mean, EV adoption is happening, and if it isn't happening for Japan, well, it doesn't really matter because regulations in North America, in Europe, and in China, which is 80% of the global automotive market, will mean it'll be virtually impossible for Japan to sell 95% of the cars that it sells today within about 8 years, or even less in some places. Now, what's going on with Nissan in this latest scandal? Well, fortunately for Nissan, this one is not as bad as the other scandals that it's had this year. However, a dozen current and former dealership employees at Nissan of Shelby faced more than 400 criminal charges following a months-long investigation by the North Carolina Division of Motor Vehicles and Theft Bureau. The misdemeanor charges primarily involve rebuilt salvage vehicles that were offered for sale at the dealership and the documentation used to transfer their titles, said a spokesperson for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. These allegations include 137 charges, says Automotive News, of failure to deliver vehicle titles and 33 charges of failure to disclose vehicle damage. The alleged criminal behavior began in December. It was not immediately clear what penalties the people who are being charged will face if convicted. Not if convicted, really, to be fair. It's really more a matter of when they're convicted. Homan said the investigation has led to at least 2 title cancellation requests and 31 vehicles were identified as having damage improperly disclosed. In fact, it seems as though these vehicles were all written off, and the company has performed a series of paperwork tricks essentially to sell vehicles that shouldn't even be legally driven on the roads. An investigation from television station VBTV in Charlotte alleged that totaled and flooded used vehicles were found listed for sale on Nissan at Shelby's website. Homan said the investigation partially stemmed from the TV station's reporting. The store learned of the investigation in February and has been cooperating with the state since. We are aware of the charges, a Nissan spokesperson said in an emailed statement to Automotive News. This is a matter for the authorities and we do not comment on pending litigation. Nissan of Shelby notified all impacted customers after the store learned of the investigation and said it's committed to answering to any ongoing concerns from the community. I've talked to literally hundreds of customers and I have started a top to bottom review of policies and procedures, he told Automotive News. Now, personally, it's my view that they knew about it. I think it's incredibly unlikely that the owner or the manager of this Nissan dealership, and I believe there's one other that's been involved, didn't know about this. This is a pretty large series of crimes to just be disguised magically from the manager or the owner of these dealerships. Only four members of the dealership's current accounting team were charged with failure to disclose damage and failure to deliver vehicle titles. The dealership is reviewing the employment status of those four individuals, but Ewing said he could not comment further until he's paid those staff to keep quiet about his own involvement. I just made that last part up. But that's what I think. The current and former employees face a range of charges from less than 10 to more than 100 each. Now, this is hundreds of charges. Each individual is being charged relative to their expected duty and specific responsibility, Homan said. The evidence gathered did not necessarily point toward a coordinated effort, but it appears highly likely. Nissan of Shelby's former general manager, Sam Kazran, alone is facing 110 charges around these activities. He's no longer employed at the store. Now, this is the former general manager. So there was corruption probably in the entire dealership. Others among those charged allegedly used temporary tags improperly and made false statements about the sale date of cars. This is it's a serious issue, but to be fair, this is a fairly minor issue in comparison to this. Nissan's downgrade to junk is seen as the start of the fallen angels cycle. Now, I just think these are symptoms of a company that is sick. The downgrade of Nissan Motors' credit rating from investment grade to junk by S&P Global has, in my opinion, really marked the start of a cycle that will see as much as 55 billion of so-called fallen angels. Global supply chain disruptions, higher labor costs, and persistently high inflation in a slowing economy will hurt companies such as Nissan in cyclical sectors like automobiles. And the truth is that we're now reaching that inflection point where you're going to start seeing that recession squeeze on companies' earnings. Companies like Nissan that are resorting to desperate tactics to sell cars. Their EVs aren't selling, brand new ones, which are meant to be good. However, people don't even appear to want those. So I believe Nissan is really on the precipice here of a greater disaster. If you're invested in the company, it is my recommendation. Now, I'm not a stock investment qualified advisor, but personally, I think there is very little upside with this company. So I can't understand why you would hold stock of Nissan. Clearly, you have to consider whether or not the risk outweighs the potential reward. Now, what are the potential rewards with Nissan? Well, I can't really think of any. But if you can, please let me know what they are in the comments. And thank you for watching. Bye-bye.